Well, it is the new year and kids are heading back into school and really reaching the end of their first semester. And a lot of districts across the state are having to make difficult decisions about how they're moving forward. And joining me now is Lori Higgins, longtime education reporter in the city and now the bureau chief for Chalkbeat Detroit. Lori, it's good to see you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Christy. Thank you for having me on today.
You just came out with a list of 6 things that you are looking for when it comes to education in Michigan for 2021. And I really love the list. And the first one is return to in-person learning, exactly what so many districts are grappling with.
Exactly. This week, schools came back and, some came back to in-person learning for the first time in, a few weeks or a couple of months. And some are playing a waiting game because we don't know right now what kind of spike we'll see from the Christmas holiday. You have districts like the Detroit School District they were supposed to come back on January 11th. And they've delayed it until February because the positivity rate in the city is still higher than their threshold. Kids aren't necessarily thriving in virtual schooling, and they know that face-to-face works best for most kids, but they're also dealing with safety concerns that staff are raising and some parents as well.
And that really goes into the second point you raised is the vaccine effect. And we are still waiting to see a large scale rollout of people being vaccinated and how that will make a difference going into spring.
What we're hearing so far is a little concerning. A large number of healthcare workers are declining the vaccine, not only in Michigan, but across the country. We were already worried about whether or not teachers and other school staff would be taking the vaccine in large numbers. When we posted a story recently about this, most of the reaction from teachers was, no, I'm not going to get this vaccine. Whether or not people get the vaccine will determine whether schools can come back, full time in person.
So if we still have a virtual school and kids are online learning, the next point really is improving the online learning. And the complaints that we're hearing from kids, and I'm hearing in my own house, is fatigue of being on screen so long, not having the interaction, not feeling that they're connecting with their teachers and with other kids. How do you even improve that when you're still looking at should we be back in or not?
Right. I mean, a lot of districts are spending probably a lot of time on the safety issues and on these debates about returning or not. I think that districts are starting to look at how to improve online learning. The Detroit School District, for instance, is looking at, creating a task force to recommend changes. Students have been very vocal about the fact that this is too much for them. This is learning in a way that they're not used to.
Looking at the next point you made, will students return? They are down 53,000 students across the state, and over 10,000, Lori, are unaccounted for, meaning they don't even know where those students went.
Exactly. The number is actually 13,000, which is a huge number in Michigan. And we're seeing this not just in Michigan, but it's happening across the country. So these are students where they have not notified their schools about what they're doing. And the question is, what kind of education have they gotten in that year that they have essentially been lost?
And that really kind of brings us to the next point you're talking about, which is a focus on literacy. And if you have kids who have been kept home for that first year of kindergarten or have been homeschooled and then get put back into public school, let's say that they are the same level, let's say that they're behind. And we had that third grade literacy law that had been suspended for this year.
The question is still out there about whether or not the legislature will suspend that law again this year. Last year, school districts were supposed to hold back students who were in third grade, but far behind academically. But they suspended it for a year. There's no indication what might happen this year, and you're right. I mean, if there are kids who are not being educated right now or not being educated adequately, we could see far more students who are eligible to be held back this year than previously predicted.
testing and accountability. We know that the standardized tests for Michigan always come in the springtime. That Michigan has opted out of that, or they've been waived out of that.
Not for this year. They were waived. The U.S. Department of Education issued waivers last year. Michigan is among a number of states that have asked for another waiver for this year because they don't think that it makes sense to test students during a pandemic. But that waiver has not come. We could be heading into a situation where students will have to sit down and take this standardized test beginning in March or April.